Imagine you're in the high desert of New Mexico. Tumbleweeds roll across a stretch of ranch land that seems forgotten. But just over the horizon sits White Sands Missile Range, the birthplace of America's nuclear age. When a foreign company buys up land just outside its perimeter, locals shrug. It's empty desert after all. But in Washington, alarms ring. Because in today's world, even a dusty patch of New Mexico's soil can be a national security risk. Let's talk about how. Hey everybody, welcome to Midweek Sitrep, your bi-weekly briefing on what's happening in the world of national security. My name is Jerry Fowler, and I'm your host. Every other week, I give you the context you need to see what's really going on, so you can stay mission-focused. Today, we're going to talk about CFIUS and real estate, how a 2018 law gave CFIUS jurisdiction over foreign purchases, leases, and concessions of land near sensitive U.S. sites, why Chinese farmland deals light up the radar, and what the latest rule changes mean for investors, sellers, states, and local communities. Let's get into it. CFIUS used to be about Wall Street, buying tech companies, protecting intellectual property, but in 2018, Congress changed the rules. Now, even buying dirt can trigger a national security review. Here's the test. Can you walk the property? Can you keep others out of it? Can you build or develop on it? Can you bolt things to the ground? If you've got 3 out of 4, you've got a covered real estate transaction. And if that land sits near missile bases, radar site, or a covered port, CFIUS can step in. That's why our New Mexico ranch sale isn't just dirt and dust. It's the fence line next to a missile range. Under CFIUS, land is no longer just land. It's potential access to America's defense secrets. Why do these deals trigger alarms? For decades, farmland was invisible. Crops, cattle, quiet. Not national security. But then 2 things shifted. First, foreign buying spiked, especially by Chinese-linked companies looking at farmland, ranch land, even properties near critical infrastructure. Second, the Pentagon, or rather, the entire government, started raising a sharper point. Location isn't neutral, it's leverage. Here's why. Land close to a base or a radar station isn't just dirt. It's a potential vantage point. With the right equipment, it could track aircraft, monitor missile tests, or intercept communications. It's also about infrastructure. A crypto mine or data center might look like a business investment, but the servers and antennas on site could provide a backdoor for surveillance. And even clean energy projects like wind farms can jam radar or interfere with flight training routes. And then there's food security. Large-scale foreign ownership of farmland raises worries about control over America's food supply, especially if adversarial governments use companies as proxies. We've talked about this. That's why CFIUS stepped in. In North Dakota, it was a Chinese corn mill near Grand Forks Air Force Base. In Wyoming, it was a crypto mine humming next to a nuclear missile field. And what about our example when we started in New Mexico? It could be a desert ranch land within sight of White Sands Missile Range. Deals that look ordinary to locals can look like espionage platforms or strategic choke points in Washington. Story time. It's May 2024. A patch of prairie in Cheyenne, Wyoming. There's rows of shipping containers humming with crypto mining rigs, lights flickering, fans roaring. And on paper, it's just another digital currency play. But zoom out. The land, 12 acres on Logistics Drive, set less than 1 mile from F.E. Warren Air Force Base, home to America's intercontinental ballistic missiles. The buyers? Shell companies out of the British Virgin Islands, majority owned by Chinese nationals. They'd bought the property in 2022 and then filled it with specialized foreign-sourced equipment. Now, CFIUS didn't find out from a filing, because no filing was ever made. It came from a public tip, sparking a non-notified investigation. And what they discovered wasn't just a bad for optics. It was a live surveillance risk. Servers and networking gear close enough to monitor communications, map military activity, or worse. CFIUS concluded that the risk couldn't be mitigated, so the case went to the president. And for the first time in history, a U.S. president ordered a company to give up land. The order was blunt: divest the property, remove every piece of equipment, and get it done within 120 days. That decision didn't just force a crypto company out of Wyoming. It sent a message worldwide. Buying land near America's most sensitive sites isn't just business. It's a national security red line. So you may be wondering, Jerry, great stories. This is good information, but what does this actually mean for me? Well, if you're out there and you're selling land, investing money, or sitting on a county commission, I got a few tips for you. First, run the map. Treasury has a tool. Punch in the coordinates and it'll tell you, are you inside that 1 mile circle, the 100-mile ring, or sitting right on top of a covered port? If you don't check, you're just flying blind. Second, don't underestimate leases. People think, oh, it's just a lease. It's not a sale. It doesn't matter. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter. If the lease gives you enough rights, access, development, exclusion, it can count just like a purchase. Third, yes, there are exceptions. A single-family home? Well, that's carved out. A small slice of office space in a big tower? Maybe. Urban parcels? Often fine unless they hug a base. But here's the catch. You've got to read the fine print. Don't just assume. Read the regs. Fourth, where you're from matters. Canadians, Brits, Aussies, Kiwis. CFIUS gives you a little more breathing room, but it's not automatic. There's a checklist, and you've got to meet the qualifications. And finally, remember the states. Even if Washington says yes, Texas or Florida may say no. Federal and state rules can stack on top of each other, and that's when deals collapse. If you don't map it, check it, and file it, you could end up in the crosshairs of CFIUS. Here's the thing. The map isn't fixed. The fence lines are moving. Every time the Department of War updates Appendix A, more bases get added. More radar sites get flagged. More restricted zones pop up. What was a safe deal yesterday might be inside the circle tomorrow. And it's not just about dirt. It's about what gets planted on top of it. Crypto farms buzzing with foreign-sourced equipment. Data centers pulling in terabytes of information. Wind and solar projects that sound like clean energy, but can still interfere with military training routes or radar coverage. And then there's convergence. Land plus a data-heavy U.S. business? That's not just a real estate deal. That's a full-blown CFIUS review waiting to happen. The bottom line is, the space is going to get tighter, not looser. If you're in the game, you've got to think like the regulators, or you're going to be surprised when the rules catch up to you. The future of real estate isn't just location, location, location. It's proximity, it's ports, it's power. What if you're in government and you learn about a foreign land deal? Here's where it gets real. You're a state official or a local planner or even a Senate field rep, and someone asks, a foreign company wants to buy this farmland near a base. What do I do? The first rule is you are not CFIUS. You do not clear or block deals, but you can make sure that the right people know. So my step one would be to document it. Who's buying it? Where's the land? How close is it to military sites, ports, or infrastructure? Which brings us to step two, to share it responsibly. If you're federal staff, you can flag it for Treasury's CFIUS office through the interagency process. If you're state or local, loop in your state attorney general or your governor's office, especially if state law on foreign land ownership might apply. If it's near a military installation, it's appropriate to alert the base public affairs or community liaison office. Step three, don't overpromise. You're not there to give legal advice or guarantee outcomes. Point investors or constituents to Treasury's CFIUS guidance and encourage them to consult legal counsel. And last, step four, stay in your lane. Your role is to spot the risk, surface it, and make sure it gets to the right desk. After that, CFIUS and the interagency team decides what happens. Remember Mine 1. There was no CFIUS filing there. CFIUS learned about it from a public tip. So I know I started this out by saying if you're state or local, or you work with the Senate or the House, or you have some governmental tie, but really this comes down to concerned citizens as well. If there's a real estate transaction or a business dealing that you find out about, CFIUS takes public tips. Check them out online. If there's something worth reporting, please report it. I'm sure they would love to hear from you. Back to New Mexico. A forgotten ranch. A dusty fence line. On the surface, nothing. But in today's world, nothing is never just nothing. Because land can be leverage. It can be power. Security. And whether you're a senator, a farmer, an investor, or just someone driving past that fence line, this story matters. Because now, even the ground beneath your feet is national security. That's it for today's Midweek Sitrep. If this episode got you thinking, don't let the conversation stop here. Head over to the Insider Brief on Substack and subscribe. It's where we dig deeper, answer your questions, and preview what's next. We're also on YouTube, where you'll find short clips, interviews, and bonus content. Make sure to subscribe there if you haven't already. And if you want to support the show, go to everythingisnationalsecurity.com and check out our merch. Every shirt and hat helps keep Midweek Sitrep independent and growing. Subscribe, share, and stay sharp. I'm Jerry Fowler, and remember, everything is national security. See you next time. Midweek Sitrep with Jerry Fowler is an independent production of OpScent Media Group, LLC. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, financial, or professional advice. Listeners should consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions based upon the content discussed. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host, Jerry Fowler, and any guest, and do not reflect the official policy, position, or endorsement of any current or former employer, client, government agency, military organization, educational institution, or any other entity for which the host, Jerry Fowler, may be affiliated. Mention of a company, product, or service does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation. Any references are provided for informational purposes only. This podcast does not disclose any classified, proprietary, or confidential information. All discussions are based upon publicly available information and personal expertise.
Everything's national security. Opcent Media Group, LLC.